I'm Luke. Today on Out of Darts, we are checking out the second generation Spyra 2, one of the coolest water blasters ever made. Let's get going. Well, after that opening, I am no longer allowed to fire this in the warehouse. This made such a mess. This is the Spyra 2. If you didn't see the previous video, we will link it up above because we did have some fun doing some actual gameplay in my parents' backyard up here in the Pacific Northwest. This is the Spyra original, which I really firmly believe to be one of the better water blasters of all time. Certainly the most novel, the most unique, and the most innovative. Rather than sending like a super soaker, a constant steady stream, they send individual pellets of water or beams of water, which is really, really fun because it actually means that you have to aim and try to hit a specific opponent or whoever you're battling with, and it also makes the gameplay a little different as far as you're not just standing still and hosing people down. Quick disclaimer before we get going, Spyra did send me this review unit, so I did not pay for it. Keep that in mind when you're listening to my review. My words and thoughts are always my own. However, no freebie can ever be a truly unbiased review. I wouldn't have thought they'd even bother making a Spyra 2 because Spyra 1 was so good. I believe if I'm not mistaken, I gave this 5 stars. If I didn't, it was before the star rating. My only minor complaints about the original were that after you filled up, water leaked quite a bit out of here. There was just excess water that it wasn't actually leaking out of the system, but it would stay in some cavity here after you had shoved it into the water. So right off the bat, the new Spyra 2 has solved this issue. You've got a 2-position switch, and you've got 2 different fire modes for this blaster. First is semi-automatic, where you just pull the trigger and you get the regular shots. The next is a power burst, which is where if you hold down the trigger, you get a higher powered shot that actually takes 3 times as much water per shot. To load the blaster, you simply insert this into water, and you hit the trigger, push the trigger away from the firing position. And that's all there is to it. And there you can see I am virtually down to a few drips after doing this. This would basically leak all over you on the prior version of the blaster, and they've really, really improved that overall. Additionally, from there, they have also improved and changed the ergonomics. I think the new grip is a massive improvement. Not only is it larger and beefier, but it is also much more raised and has more texture. When your hands are wet, and you're playing a water game, the blaster, the original one, can get quite slippery, and because of its sort of V-shaped sort of sci-fi look, it was a little bit harder to hold on to than I would have liked. But that really wasn't a major complaint, but they've massively improved that on the newest version. You've got a lot of purchase on this larger grip. Up top, right in your field of view when you're using the blaster, you've got a new segmented LCD. In addition to being able to see your battery level and your shot percentage, you now can see how many of your 3 shots you have before a little recharge. There are 3 shots with 3 different bladders, I believe, inside here that can rapid fire 1, 2, 3, and then there's a little bit of a cooling down period where you have to wait a moment for it to recharge to be able to do those 3 rapidly again. It tops them off now! Okay, so one really cool thing we found while out actually demoing this is that the little indicators for the 3-shot burst that you can do really rapidly, like this, they actually recharge one at a time and you get to watch them go up, and they don't wait until all 3 have cycled to start recharging. In the previous version, the 1.0, you had to wait for that, so that's pretty nice. Up front, we've also got this sort of see-through design, which I think looks really nice. They've stayed true to the very sci-fi looking feel of the blaster, and they've also showed you a line here for max immersion depth, meaning you don't need to shove it deeper than this. The blaster is quite heavy when totally full. It's got a pretty good load of water in there, and it is quite a fun blaster to play with. We have had a really good time playing with these casually, playing with them for tests, and ultimately, I'm really excited to see them make a sequel and an improvement on an original blaster. Now, when it comes down to price, these blasters are not inexpensive. It is certainly a very premium toy. We've actually seen these go up in price from the original one. The Spyra 2 comes in at 175 United States dollars. That's definitely a premium product, but they are certainly aiming for a more premium market, and it is a very well-made product from my perspective. Earlier this year, Spyra also released the Spyra LX. Now, the Spyra LX is a more budget-friendly version of this mechanic without the electronics. So the Spyra LX actually has a pump built into the back here, and I will get my hands on one of those to review at some point, but I don't have one yet. Now, I like that concept because the sort of water BB or water burst gameplay method really makes these a lot of fun. So seeing that in a more affordable blaster is definitely a huge plus in my opinion. Spyra has made a few other minor tweaks. It seems they've improved waterproofing throughout. There's also a quite firm rubber cover over the USB-C port down on the bottom, which is used for charging. Operation is super simple, but that was definitely an improvement from the previous where it was just a bare USB-C port sticking out of here. I always wondered about that, you know, catching some water there, so maybe that's why they ultimately covered it in the next iteration. Overall, I already loved the original product, the original Spyra, and I think the Spyra 2 simply improves on that. Even at its given price point, which is quite high, I do think this is a fantastic product overall. I'm gonna give this 5 out of 5 stars, and I look forward to blasting around with it this summer as things finally warm up in the Pacific Northwest. We've had quite a wet spring so far. Let me know what you think of these blasters in the comments. Are you into squirt guns and squirt blasters? I don't know what to even call them. Water blasters, that's really the best. Water blasters as well as Nerf. Have you ever tried crossing both? That's something we did as a kid, and it was not very fun for the people who had the Nerf blasters. Until next time, I'm out of darts. And now it's going up to 100. 100.
Okay.
Ah!
That's one for the outtakes.